Alright, hey guys, time to talk about the controls. Up here, you have, right now we're in the place tool, which means we can just select parts from the menu and place them onto our ship. But if you go look up here, you have an offset tool. You click the offset tool, you click on your part that you want to offset, and you can kind of move it up and down inside things. And what this allows you to do is kind of place things a little bit outside what they're supposed to be, so you can like offset it a certain amount. There's a limit to how far you can offset it. It still has to be touching something in some way, touching its origin part, but you can offset it and stuff. And offsetting actually also changes the position, which changes the physics of the ship, so that's really useful, especially if you're going for cosmetic stuff. Then there's a rotate tool, same kind of thing, you can just kind of rotate. Though I prefer to use the rotation hotkeys, which I'll show you in a bit. But the benefit of the actual rotation tool itself is that you can kind of free rotate it separate from like part attachment points, so you can like just rotate it whichever way and it still stays attached to the ship. So that's a rotate tool. Then you have your reroute tool. I'm pretty sure the idea behind this is you can weld parts together. And yeah, it I guess reduces lag or whatever. And then attachment mode, I honestly don't. Looks like it's bugged. Jab routing parts is just attaching parts, and that's pretty like welding parts together to make them one part. And so that's all the extra editing tools gone over. Let's go back into place mode, and I'll show you some of the hotkeys. So say you wanted to duplicate something so you didn't have to keep selecting it from the menu and placing it over and over and over again. If you press R1 and then highlight that object with your cursor and press X, you can duplicate it. When you're moving an object around and you're moving it around maybe too fast, you can press either R1 or L1 and you go into a fine movement mode, where you can make more fine adjustments to the placement of the part. If you press the directional buttons, you can rotate it in different ways, and R2 and L2 rotates it along its 90-degree axis, and then so there's like X, Y, and Z axis rotation. And then the directional buttons and R2 and L2 kind of control both those things. So yeah, just me rotating the part around like crazy. And if you want to fine rotate it, then you press L1 and then you press the directional buttons, or the R2 and L2 buttons, and you can make fine adjustments to the rotation. If you... I think that's pretty much all the main functions. Oh, symmetry. If you want to change the symmetry mode, there's radial and mirrored, which I explained in the first video I made in this series. Change between radial and mirror symmetry by pressing square, and it'll tell you whether it's symmetry, mirror, or radial. And then if you want to change the symmetry mode from like 1 to a different, you can change it. It goes all the way up to 8, so that means you're placing 8 radially attachable objects at once in perfect symmetry. And that's what symmetry mode is for. You press R1 and square to change the symmetry. And then down here in the very bottom corner is a snap. Basically, you can have a rotation snap so that it snaps to a specific position around an object. I'll demonstrate that now with a radially attachable object. See, if we could put this drill on, right? See how it snaps to different positions like it's on a grid. But if we disable that snap, toggle that snap, then we can position it more freely and more accurately. But I like to keep the snap on because it tends to snap to specific perfect angles, which is really useful. So I recommend keeping that snap on. So you can toggle it on and off over here. I keep it on. And down here is your center of mass display, center of thrust display, and center of lift display. This ship doesn't have any, but when you press on these, have any center of thrust or center of lift, but when you press on these buttons, you can see it. And center of thrust is purple, center of mass is yellow, and center of lift is blue. And you can toggle them on and off at the bottom here. And that's pretty much the essential vehicle controls. Let's talk about action groups. Basically, there's custom actions you can set. So say, for example, I wanted this drill to activate, right? But I didn't want to have to like go and activate it manually by clicking on it and everything. I could set it to a custom action group and have that custom action group be to toggle the drill, and then boom, that action group is set. So when I press the custom 01 action group, it'll toggle the drills without me having to go in and actually manually activate it and everything. Then there's the crew. Right now our crew is Valentina Kerman as the pilot, but there's no parts with crew capacity right now because we're using an unmanned probe. But I'll get a part with crew capacity to demonstrate how you would put crew into a ship. So let's get rid of this. Let's place this Mark III, and then let's go to crew, right? So we have Valentina Kerman, right? But we can go to the astronaut complex and hire more people. Just hire a bunch of them, and then we can press these check marks and place them in the seats. If we want to remove them, we go over to the seats and we remove them, and boom, that's how you add and take away crew. The next thing I'm going to show you is the sub-assemblies, and this is the last thing I'm going to talk about before I end this off, because we've been through a lot of parts now, and I think I've gone in depth enough for anybody to understand what I'm talking about. Sub-assemblies, say you have a group of parts you want to use for everything, like a launch system, for example. What you would do is, say let's just make a simple launch system right here. This is all for, of course, demonstration purposes. Let's get rid of this. Let's make, like, say a rocket with say a lander stage. Duplicate it. Let's place the engines, fuel ducts, because we're going to do this properly. Alright, so say I wanted to keep that as a lander design all the time for every small ship. Then I would go to my sub-assemblies here and see that sub-assembly drop zone. I would just pick these up off my command pod and drop them here. Now that's a group of parts that I can use for everything, so let's just call it tutorial group. And not giving it a description, then I save it. Right now let's delete this so I can show you. Now when I click the tutorial group sub-assembly, it's the selection of parts that I dropped there, and I can just use it as many of them as I want. It's already all grouped together and ready to go, and it's a lander stage, and it's all perfect, all staged and everything and ready to go. So that's sub-assemblies, and that's pretty much everything you need to know about the vehicle assembly building and what all the parts do. Some of the stuff that I told you about in utilities and in control, don't worry about any of that stuff right now, because I'm still going through very beginner tutorials. Just worry about like the types of rocket engines and the types of liquid fuel tanks for now, and we'll talk about all that stuff in utility and everything as it comes. For now, I'm Insane Aerospace Engineer. Thank you for watching my tutorial. I'll see you guys later.